Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another great edition of Sports A2F. I'm your host, Logan Graffi, and on today's show, it's going to be an LSU football discussion, the season outlook, how the LSU Tigers can get to 12 wins this year, and much, much more. So let's get right into it. What players are going to be key for LSU to potentially hit that 12-win mark, which is 12-0, by the way? And, of course, you got to start with the leading man in charge, and that's Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett Nussmeier showed me a lot of poise in that Wisconsin Bowl game just a few months ago. I was waiting for him to show me that he can do it. There was many times where he was just thrown in garbage time roles when this past season when LSU would be up 50 to nothing, whatever, and what have you. Like games against Southern, Grambling, over the years in New Mexico State or New Mexico, and it just seemed like, I don't know. But that Wisconsin game showed me a lot from Garrett Nussmeier. And I think, here's my bold take, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to throw for 4,000 yards this year. 4,000 yards, between 30 and 35 touchdowns. Interceptions, I can't predict that. I don't want to predict that. One room that you have to look at as a strength for this team on offense especially is the wide receiver room and offensive line. Offensive line is probably Joe Moore Award winning worthy, I think, again this year. So with offensive line, you have Will Campbell, Garrett Dellinger, you have DJ Chester, according to this predicted depth chart, at center. Then you have Miles Frazier and Emory Jones. That's your offensive line. And like I said, I think it's going to be Joe Moore award-winning worthy. And then the wide receivers, top to bottom, including the transfers that we got in the wide receiving room. Xavier Thomas from Mississippi State and C.J. Daniels from Liberty, both very viable options, and I think are going to be a big part of the offense this year. And then you have returners who are going to be just, I think, outstanding. I think Kyron Lacey's going to earn himself a lot of money this year. I really, really do. I think Kyron Lacey's going to wind up being a first-round pick. If not a first-round pick, a high second-round pick after this season. You look at he has waited his turn to be the number one guy. I've always been a big believer in Kyron Lacey. Soon as I noticed that he transferred to LSU from UL Lafayette. Then you look at Chris Hilton Jr. and Aaron Anderson. Aaron Anderson, I think, is going to have a huge role in this offense with Joe Sloan calling the plays now. You look at how, say, someone like a Darren Sproles was used in the NFL once upon a time, or even you backtrack a little bit in LSU history with Russell Shepard, where Russell Shepard was getting the ball handed off to him, thrown, kick returner, punt returner, and he would also even be Wildcat quarterback. I can see a world where Aaron Anderson is in that Russell Shepard role or Darren Sproles role where he's just being used all over the field. Get him the ball and just watch him work. I love Aaron Anderson. I think he's going to be tremendous for us. Now, one of the key factors, I think, for LSU going 12-0 this fall is going to be the defense. Now, you have a revamped defensive staff. You bring back Corey Raymond. You get Blake Baker as a defensive coordinator. Going off of spring, I actually liked what I saw from the LSU defense. Blake Baker is heavily involved. We've heard it from Taylor Sharp, who was a guest on the show not too long ago, a couple months back. And Blake Baker is so heavily involved. I would hope he is because he's the defensive coordinator. He's out there wearing cleats at practice. He's really just heavily involved. But many people are very worried about the defensive line, and rightfully so. But I think defensive tackle is going to be not that much of a worry when you get into the thick of things when you play USC week 1. Now, you have an incoming freshman who's going to be coming in very soon. Dominique McKinley, a big recruit, defensive tackle freshman. I think he's going to wind up being a starter somewhere down the line this season. Then, Jacobian Guillory. He's the last of the bunch returning when he was playing with Mekhi Wingo and all those other guys. And you look at the depth chart that I'm looking at right here, and your starting defensive line is looking like it's going to be Savion Jones, Jacobian Guillory, Jalen Lee, and Braden Swinson. I'm perfectly okay with that. I know we were swinging for the fences with the transfer portal, trying to get one of those top defensive tackles out of the transfer portal, But I'm okay with this because I really think Dominique McKinley, I'm not saying he's going to be like, the next Glenn Dorsey for LSU or anything, but there's potential there that it could possibly happen. And I can't stress that enough. Possibly and could happen. So, but you do get a transfer, Sean Washington out the transfer portal, who played for Georgia and is coming from a JUCO. The one player in the defensive line room I really, really like is Deshaun Womack. He absolutely was killing it at the spring game. You go back and watch it. He was all over the place. He was in on every tackle, on every rep that he got. He was in on every tackle. It was all over the place. The linebacker room, let's be honest there. We're perfectly okay with, Greg Penn, Harold Perkins, and the Weeks brothers in the linebacker room. Now, secondary. LSU had one of the worst secondaries in the country last year. But if you look at it, it's slated to be Ashton Stamps and P.J. Woodland as the starting cornerbacks. But also remember, Zy Alexander is coming back from injury, and I think he's going to be plugged in to the starting role with Ashton Stamps. But you can't forget about Javian Toviano. This kid, he has such a high ceiling. Javian Toviano, his ceiling is absolutely the roof, whatever, or outside of it's through the ceiling. I can't even explain it, but I am honestly okay with the way this team is built. So how can they get the 12 wins? That's the main question. That is, you look at the schedule, and let's look at the schedule right here. You start off with USC. USC is losing, just like LSU is, their Heisman Trophy winner, and Caleb Williams. He is no longer there. I don't think USC is going to be that great this year. I think LSU can win that game. I'm not going to say easily. I think it's going to be growing pains starting out. But if LSU can come out the gate swinging like I think they can and not get down like they were at first in that Wisconsin game with Garrett Nussmeier leading the charge, then I think they can beat USC. I'm predicting a 35, maybe 38-21 game LSU wins. So let's look at the first few games. You got USC, which I think you can win. Nichols is going to be, going to be one of those games where it's like Grambling and Southern and Southeastern. If you lose to Nichols, then it's kind of like losing to Troy all those years ago. Then you have South Carolina, UCLA, South Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M. Alabama's at home this year. And then you have Florida, Vanderbilt. Then you finish it off with Oklahoma. Wow. That's never happened before. You're playing Oklahoma as your season finale, which is going to be very, very interesting. The Bama game is the one game that you have to think is probably the most interesting on the schedule because Nick Saban is no longer there. And you get the play, the head coach, former head coach from Washington. This is not, bulletin board material. This is me just making a prediction. I think LSU can beat Alabama this year in Tiger Stadium. This schedule is going to be tough. I mean, the games that I never like doing this, but the games that you could kind of just chalk up as wins, in my opinion, is Nicholls and South Alabama. Vanderbilt, maybe, because they are in the SEC. I think LSU can win 12 games this year. 11, I don't think is going to cut it because you're looking at the new bracket. It's 12 teams. And I think LSU can get that 8th spot, if not the 6th spot, because SEC reigns supreme in college football. We all know that. And with LSU's roster, coaching staff, everything from top to bottom, I think LSU can win 12 games. The one game on the schedule that, worries me the most, oddly enough, is going to be Ole Miss and possibly Oklahoma, because last time LSU played Oklahoma was when we had Joe Burrow and we dropped 63 points on them. But this is a new day. Ole Miss, because Lane Kiffin, you cannot just chop that off as a win because Lane Kiffin is tricky to game plan for. His offenses are always, pretty darn good. But after looking at the schedule, as I keep repeating myself, I apologize. I truly believe they can win 12 games. Who will they play in the playoffs? That's to be determined. I'll probably have a show later on down the line about that. So all these games, I'm not saying they're not going to be favored in a good chunk of these games, and that is okay. Because for all you gamblers out there and betting heads, bet on LSU whenever they don't have the best odds to win. I think they're going to win their opening game. It's been a few years since they've started off 1-0. I think it's probably been since 2019, 2020. Someone can research that for me. But I think LSU is going to have a tremendous year. I believe in Garrett Nussmeier, or the Nuss Bus. I'm on the Nuss Bus. I think this defense is going to be vastly improved with Blake Baker at the helm as the defensive coordinator. I think the secondary is going to be vastly improved with Corey Raymond back in the fold. I have said that many, many times again. But before I go, I want to just highlight one more player on LSU that I think is going to be incredibly great, and that is Kylan Jackson. He's a redshirt freshman. He's in that star role, just like Major Burns, as it says on his depth chart. He is going to be he's going to be the next one. Like all these young guns on LSU, Javion Toviano, Ashton Stamps. Then you have Austin Asbury, who was a transfer. Jordan Gilbert. Oh my goodness. All these young guys I think are going to be truly tremendous, and they're going to be next up for LSU as the next great ones. And Kylan Jackson, I think, is going to be a superstar. I think Kylan Jackson is going to be a superstar. Well, you guys, that's all the time I have for you today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this show all over the social media spectrum. You can follow me on Twitter at TheSoulMan57, or you can follow the Sports A2Fade Twitter page. Just search Sports A2Fade. Not hard to find. You can friend me or find me on Facebook. Just search my name, Logan Graffia. With that being said, you guys, this has been another great edition of Sports A2Fade. I shall see you guys next time.